are working on having Eileen join us. So as soon as we get the clear that she's all set up and her equipment's all working, we're going to get her to join us. If she doesn't make it today, we're going to reschedule her. So don't worry. Either way, you're going to get to speak with Eileen, whether it's today or on a future show. But in the meantime, we're going to give you a little bit about Eileen, and we're going to speak a little bit about what's going on for her so that we make sure that in any respect you get a little bit about the Ensemble Theater, which is a Houston treasure. If you haven't been to the Ensemble, please, as soon as we get up and running and everything's safe and we've got programming going, get out to the theater. But in the meantime, I'm going to share a picture of an upcoming reading they're going to be doing live, I think in a couple of days here. Shaken in the Mess Out of Misery. This is happening Monday, June 29th. It's got a lot of great Houston actors in it, 6 p.m. It's there's some Facebook information there about where you can watch the reading. One of our future guests, Alice Gatling, is in this lovely, beautiful reading. So please take a moment to check that out. It looks great. I'm hoping maybe we can do that on our vacation. We're going to be coming to you next week live from Sedona. We're excited about getting away into the mountains, isolating a little farther away. So that's coming up. We're going to run a little video for you about the ensemble. We're going to give you a little of Eileen herself. So let me show you this so you get a little summary from the lady herself about the Ensemble Theater.
The Ensemble Theater, located in the heart of Midtown, is the oldest African-American theater in the Southwest, founded in 1976 by Mr. George Hawkins, a platform for having our stories told from the African-American perspective. When we did the play Cinderella, there was a little girl. She looked at the playbill and she said, "Oh, Mommy, she looks like me." That's what you want.
Reliance celebrates Houstonians, making Black history every day.
So there's your intro for Eileen. But hopefully we're going to have Eileen with us very shortly. And in the meantime, Philip, why don't you tell me one of your favorite memories of something you saw at the Ensemble Theater?
Oh gosh, I think it's hard to choose between the recent production of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom that we saw.
Wonderful.
And then there was this great production, gosh, 5 or 6 years ago, I think it's another August Wilson play. I'm a sucker for August Wilson, the King Hedley, the second, I think it's called. And I just both of those, I mean, I've only gotten to see August Wilson plays on Broadway or at the Ensemble Theater here in Houston. And I mean, that's really just because I've lived in New York and Houston. But the productions I saw at the Ensemble, they were both directed by Eileen. And I just thought they were great. And those plays came alive for me. I'd read Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I had no idea what to expect with King Hedley. And but I just remember them both being just very well acted, well designed, and well acted and beautifully directed.
Yeah.
So
they were great productions.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I think there were some people in. I don't know if there were people who were in both.
I don't remember exactly.
Tim Dixon and Jason Carmichael being excellent in Ma Rainey.
And the legendary Wayne DeHart.
Indeed.
In Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, who's wonderful.
I don't know the actor who played Ma Rainey herself.
I don't, but she was lovely. Yeah, I don't remember her name myself. I also remember I went and saw a wonderful production with a couple friends of ours of Vera Stark. That's not the complete title.
Yeah, I'll come up with it in a minute.
Yeah, he'll come up with it. But that was an amazing production, and I did not know that play, which was so exciting for me to get to see some friends of ours, plus some new actors that we weren't aware of. Just really great work. And every time we go to the Ensemble, we're just blown away by the wonderful work, the amazing support of their audience, and how institution in Houston, which has been around since I think it's 1976. Yeah. So
Yeah,
here's a great picture of George and Eileen, George Hawkins and Eileen, back in the day.
So the ensemble I was reading today, it was founded in 1976, and Eileen was there by 1982. And Mr. Hawkins died in 1990. And as far as I know, Eileen's was immediately the artistic director. I think, well, we'll have to ask her, but
Yeah.
I feel like there was a time when she wasn't for a little while, but we'll ask her about that when we see her beautiful face.
Yeah.
But Eileen has been part of that theater since 1982, so she must know almost everything. And she's not quite the founder, but worked with the founder for 8 years. So I actually wanted to ask her a little bit about a transition from a founder's theater into a theater run by somebody else. Although maybe because she worked so closely with George, she wouldn't see it that way. But we'll have to ask her later on.
Yeah.
By
Well,
gum.
I know. Well, if she doesn't make it on, we're having her back. So we're going to talk about her for a while because she's just wonderful.
Face,
Oh,
can-
she's
can we
coming
hear
in.
her?
Can we maybe hear her? Eileen, do you hear us? Oh, she's trying to work off a phone. I'm not really sure that's working. I'm going to give her a second to clear in the screen down there, and I feel bad, but I don't think this is going to work. So we're gonna sign off from having Eileen today and try to make this work on another day. So
Thank you, Eileen, for trying, if you can hear us.
yeah, and we're gonna have Eileen back.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, she's freezing. It's not really coming through. We're gonna have you back, Eileen. I can kind of see you, but not so well. We're gonna have you back. All right. But yes, please join their reading on Monday. I'm glad we got to give you a little intro, and we'll get Eileen back. So let's talk about
well, we
what we
had
didn't
some
finish from
questions.
last week.
We had some questions, all set up for Eileen, and I was looking over them, and I was thinking that I would ask my wife some of these questions, and maybe she'll ask me too. So
Okay.
What, shall we just start with that?
Sure.
Is there there's no news about Fourth Wall necessarily that's happened in the last week. We're still trying to figure out when we'll be able to perform again. Obviously, the recent spike in COVID cases is not helping anybody in this respect. There's been some meetings between the LORT theaters in Texas. That's League of Resident Theaters, a misnomer if there ever was one, but it's basically the bigger theaters like the Alley, Dallas Theater Center. So they've met with Actors Equity Association, and there's a little more information on how we are going to make a plan to submit to the union for their approval as far as the safety of members, of actors and stage managers. But the stuff that we're not going to talk about right now.
Well, it's just like everybody else who has a business or has something going on. You don't really know what you're going to do yet. We're still all kind of playing it by ear and trying to figure out how to keep people safe, how to do what's in the best interest of everyone, and keep ourselves afloat. And it's a tough time for the arts in particular, for dance, for opera, for theater, education, for arts education, and for visual artists, for anybody. It's a really tough time. We hope that all of you out there are finding ways to stay creative, to stay engaged, to believe in this future of theater and performance that I know is going to come back around. Theater's been around for hundreds of years since the Greeks. We're not going away.
Hundreds? The Greeks were thousands
Sorry,
of
thousands.
years ago.
Excuse me. I don't ever
Stop
quote time
touching
very
the
well.
Camera. We're not gonna touch the camera this week.
Criticism. There it is. We've been on the air for 5 minutes.
I mentioned the Bickersons last week, and our managing director,
Yes.
Tim Ritchie, found us this back in the old days in the newspapers, they had things called comic strips, and there was one called the Lockhorns, which was
Right.
kind of like the Bickersons. So that's what we are today. We're the Lockhorns.
You know what? That's boring. Okay,
Hey,
come
honey.
on, keep going.
What was the first play you remember seeing,
Oh man.
and where was it?
Oh, the first play I remember seeing. I was little. I think the first play. This is going to sound really ridiculous, but I think that the first play I ever remember seeing well, I'm not going to say one when I was a tiny kid because it was something like Cinderella or something like that, and it didn't have a huge impact on me. I just enjoyed it. But the first play that I saw that really made me stop and go, oh my God, what is going on? This is amazing, was Chorus Line in New York City, and I was 18 years old. And it changed my idea of what it meant to be an artist, because that's what the play is about. It made me understand something about the aspirations and the idea of working for something and being a part of a whole group of individuals in the world who aspire to have an artistic nature about their life. And it just made me go, you know what? I think I want to do that. And it was an amazing moment for me. So that was, Chorus Line was the big changer for me. What about you, Philip Lale? What's the first play you really remember?
Well, I got to say before we go any further that hi to Holly Barretto. And
Holly Barretto, hi.
But also that Chorus Line, I saw the national tour of that production when I was in high school. So, and it was great. It was not the first play I ever saw though. But little known fact, I played Al in a production of Chorus Line at the Weston Playhouse in Weston, Vermont. And if you have ever seen me dance, you probably won't.
If anybody didn't see the Pride and Prejudice a rehearsal video of him dancing to the Beyonce song, you got to look that up. It's classic. That's a viral video if I ever saw one.
I'm still about as good a dancer as I was then. So they tucked me in back. I was hired for the whole season. I was playing other parts, but they're like, what are we going to do with Philip and Chorus
Oh my
Line?
God. That's my favorite thing in the world is when he dances in the house. Okay,
So,
now we're getting personal.
my favorite, the first play that I remember seeing was A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum at Charlie's Showplace Dinner Theater in Des Moines, Iowa. The folks took us out, and I also saw that play at the college where my dad taught at Drake University, where I went later on.
That's great.
So yeah, and I remember, and I submit to you that production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum is probably the best production of it that ever was. At least in my mind, it is.
Well, there you go.
I remember the people who were in it. I was probably 7 years old, and I just thought it was the funniest thing I'd ever seen, and I wanted to do that so badly.
That's awesome.
I never got to appear at Charlie's Showplace Dinner Theater.
Oh, their loss. All right, so let's get serious.
Well, no, what do you mean?
Come on, let's talk about something meaty and intelligent and serious.
I always want to ask people, and maybe if you're watching live and you want to tell us what the first play you remember being, moved by, or, why you love theater, what play made you love theater, maybe you could type that into the
or if you have questions for us, you're welcome to ask us anything
we don't
you
have
want.
To talk about that.
Right.
I actually think that's really important, or interesting. The first play that people saw, or the thing that made them want to do theater, right?
Yeah, I think that's.
So when I was in fourth grade, the sixth graders did a production of Taming of the Shrew, and
I'm going to the bathroom.
And Rod Ramsey played Petruchio, and he walked down in the scene where Petruchio comes to get married. He walked down in the middle of us wearing just long johns, and everybody laughed, and it was great. And I was like, how come Rod Ramsey gets to wear just long johns in school?
Well, you do that all the time. You remember when I met you,
when
you used to walk around the heights in your underwear.
Not when I was in fourth grade.
Yeah, well, you made up for it when you got older and you walked around town like that. If anybody missed that, well, that's thanks to me because I taught him how to dress.
I wore pajama pants.
Whatever, long johns, pajama bottoms.
So
obviously that's for
Broom,
Petruchio.
Brian Broom says, "Bye bye birdie." He saw Bye Bye Birdie.
Broom, that's nice.
And
the Fantastics at Town and Country Theater in Houston for
Nice.
Sharon Dunaway. There we go.
Yeah. So
All
far,
right.
notice a trend. All musicals.
That's right. Musicals are pretty.
Yeah, well, that's what you take kids to, right?
It's true. It's true, and they're very impactful when you're young.
Kim, did you ever think you were going to do anything other than theater? And if so, what would it have been?
Waitressing.
Here's Grease. Neil Neil Orts says he saw Grease
That's great.
in
Well,
Giddings, where live theater was not plentiful. Yeah, there you
nice.
go. Wasn't plentiful in Des Moines, Iowa either, Neil. Okay,
Are you done?
I'm done. Until someone else comments.
Oh my God. It's going to be a fight night. It's on. um, what did you ask me?
Did you ever think you were going to do anything
Oh,
else besides theater?
I actually was for a while. I worked in investment banking in New York, and I did some executive secretary work for a while. But I also did work in the mergers and acquisition group, and I did some design. I worked on developing some software programming for tracking trends in the market and in the marketplace. So I thought for a while I was going to leave and just work in in investment banking or in business in some way. So I did think I would leave. Excuse me.
Oh, nothing to sneeze at.
Sorry. Yes. Because I just, I've always been kind of business oriented too, which, and for those of you who know me, know that besides the theater, I also, sorry, I also run a business. I run a payroll company and a temporary help service, which I also serve as a paymaster for Houston for a lot of small theater companies to hire equity artists. So I try to help small theaters have the ability to hire equity artists at a lower markup rate than some of the other companies in the city so that we can have more equity artists working in Houston. So I have multiple jobs. I always have. So yes.
In the interim, Holly Barretto has talked about our town being the place she saw at Trinity Rep in high school, which I admire.
Our town's a great show.
Yeah, I envy you that. Trinity Rep's in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's a great theater company. And then Neil Orts says that the Game Changer was Member of the Wedding starring Pearl Bailey. It was on TV, which, wow,
Yeah.
I didn't know that
Yeah.
even happened. That's pretty
Nice.
cool.
Good. That's
yeah.
some great stuff.
Since you ask, I was considering being a professional soccer player,
Oh God.
but that didn't work out. So I had
The
to.
things I have to listen to. The pipe dreams I have to deal with on a daily basis.
Soccer in Des Moines, Iowa in the 1980s was like theater in Des Moines, Iowa in the 1980s.
You should see him play soccer. He likes to play in his long johns, like I told you.
This is not true.
Yeah, you play in those pajama pants things when you played. It was not attractive.
Talking about?
When you used to walk around the Heights in your pajamas and you play soccer with the boys in your pajamas. You did it all the time. He did. It was embarrassing, but
I was
all
an
right.
economics major for a year in school.
He's pretty smart, I guess.
And so the next question is, did you have a mentor? And was there a thing that they taught you that sticks with you to this day or that you use or something?
Yeah, I do. I did. I consider my mentor Gene Frankel.
Tell us who Gene Frankel was.
Gene Frankel is an amazing, iconic Obie Award-winning director in the 1970s. He's considered the person who discovered James Earl Jones and Cicely Tyson. He did a play, a really landmark play, well, a ton of them, but in the late 70s or mid 70s called The Blacks. Even earlier. See, I don't know my dates very well. I'm terrible with dates. But in the early 70s called The Blacks. That was a really big, wonderful hit and very different kind of theater than people had seen. And James Earl Jones, Cicely Tyson, and someone else that I'm forgetting. But he was a wonderful director and a wonderful acting teacher. And when I went to New York, I studied with him for 4 years and became very involved with him personally too in his life. And just studied with him, and he taught me some of the most amazing things about acting and about directing and just being a person that I think could navigate being in the arts. And one of the things he taught me that I always kept with me was I always tell this story when I teach acting about being doing a scene in an acting class from a play called Edmund by David Mamet, where in the top scene of the play, Edmund kills this girl in the beginning of the scene. See, I always ruin the story, just so you know, I just did it again. So he does this.
I can tell you.
Don't ask me about a book I've read because I'll tell you.
Yeah. Go on.
All right.
Go on with
So
your
anyway,
story.
I doing this scene from Edmund with the other person in class, and I worked really, really hard, and we met to rehearse over and over and over, and we do the scene, and it goes really well, and I thought it was just great, right? I'm like sweating, I'm working really hard. I finished the scene, and the scene's over, and after it's over with, Gene's just sitting there and he's silent, and I think, oh my God, I'm so good, he can't even talk. And I'm sitting and waiting, and the other people in class are kind of waiting. And he's an old school teacher. He had a white beard and mustache, and he always wore an ascot tie, scarf in his coat. And he's sitting there and just thinking. And I was like, "Oh my God, I've struck him dumb. He can't even speak." And after a moment or two, he stops, and he had an assistant in class named Mary, who's a friend of mine. Later, and he goes, Mary, can you go get a broom so Kim can sweep up all the little piles of acting she just left all over the stage? I was like, dumbfounded. I was like, really? No, that was great, right? Right. And he proceeded to talk to me for a long time and tell me a lot of wonderful things about how to get better and to work harder and, change some of the things I was doing. But at the end, he said something to me that I've never forgotten and that I carry with me always, and that I truly feel is a very important part of being a great artist in any respect, or director, actor, whatever it may be. He said to me at the end of giving me a bunch of notes, he said, Kim, he said, I'm going to tell you something now that I want you to take in the best light. And you have something going for you in spades that everyone in this room should think about. He said, I want you all to listen to this piece of advice about acting or any kind of art. You're never going to be great until you're willing to be bad. And then he took a pause and he goes, and Kim, you're willing to be bad. And I was like, yes, I'll do it. What do you want me to do? I'll do it. But he was lovely. He was a beautiful person. He was a lovely man. And he taught me more about acting probably and about the kind of person I wanted to be as an actor than anybody I ever taught. So that's my long story about you're never going to be great until you're willing to be bad. And I think that's wonderful advice about taking risks and trying things and, not being afraid to push it out there a little bit. So that's that. How about Philip, mentor, story?
I think my mentor, I would say, was my college university professor, William Coleman, who was known to everybody as Doc, and then later Bill, when we became friends later on. And Bill taught pretty much everything at Drake University, but he taught he taught theater history, and he insisted that we all read during that theater history probably a dozen of Greek plays. And he made us understand, and this stays with me, this is what stays with me today, that there's no Shakespeare without Euripides, and there's no Shaw without Shakespeare, and there's no Chekhov without Shaw or Shakespeare, maybe, or both, and on and on and on. And that there is a line of all the great playwrights that goes right back to the Greeks. And I see our work as being part of this line, or this quilt that kind of does this out from 3,000 years ago. And that always sort of humbles me. And like when things go bad, I kind of go, yeah, that's okay. There are other things that have gone bad in the last 3,500 years.
There's that Caitlin put a note up that I was going to say about another group of mentors that Philip got to meet this summer. She said something about coming to see Nick Farco, who's a wonderful friend of ours who works with us quite often in a play at our theater at some point. Nick's been in a few of our plays. But that she has developed some appreciation, admiration for our theater, which we are so grateful for. But she said she loved Glass Menagerie this season and thought that was a good performance. And I was going to tell you a little bit about that performance because I wanted to play that role, but it's a very scary, iconic role. And
what role is that for those who don't know?
That's Amanda, the name of my dog. So, which is also because I got my dog during Glass Menagerie, so I thought that would be a good name for her,
No,
which is
that's
sweet.
not the name of the dog.
Oh, stop it.
The dog's
So
name. Tell me what the dog's
he
name.
thinks the dog's name is the Batman, which we have arguments about that. But anyway, so the other story about the Glass Menagerie is this past summer I went back to New York to train with another group that I studied with for many years on my second stint in New York, called the Barrow Group, which is led by two amazing artistic individuals named Seth Barish and Lee Brock, who, my heart, they are my heart. I love those two people, and they really help you find a strong sense of character, but also what is about bringing your own natural inclination to a character, but still staying strong to the obligation to the piece and to the period. And I knew that playing Amanda, I was like, I'm going to want to play some idea. I'm going to end up trying to play some stilted kind of idea of a person that everybody thinks she's supposed to be. And I don't want to do that. I want to play what I think the text says and what I can bring to that role. And so with this summer, I worked on it with Seth and Lee and just found what I thought was this person that was about, the love of this person's love for her children and the struggle she's trying to go through to survive in this period. And so I appreciate that you brought that up, because that brought up my other set of mentors who, if you look up the Barrow Group, if you're ever in New York and there's a production going on by the Barrow Group, don't miss it. They're fantastic. It'll be some of the best theater you ever see. So
I also, when Kim was there, I watched a couple of classes that she was in. I watched Seth Barish teach, and it was astounding. He was just an incredibly insightful teacher, and I watched him help everybody he worked with.
yeah.
And so, yeah, once training begins again, if you're in New York,
Yeah.
you
Go
should
look them
hit
up.
them up.
So what else can we talk about? Here's something for everybody out there that might throw some notes in for any of you that are watching. If you're watching, or even if you check this out later, what do people think that Houston theater lacks? What could we do here that you're missing, that you think might be something that we could add to the different theaters around town? What kind, maybe a show, maybe any kind of programming or more education stuff that we don't do. But Philip, you personally, is there anything you think of when you go, what would I like to see here more that I see maybe in other cities or?
Well, I think there's room for a small or mid-sized musical theater company. I think there's room for I don't know how Eileen feels about this. I feel bad saying this, but I mean, the ensemble does 8 shows a year, I think. I forget.
Mhm.
But come on, I mean, I think there's room for a lot more Black theater. I know there's some smaller companies that I was not aware of until recently, and that's on me. But so maybe those theaters can grow, and
Mhm.
I can find out more about them.
Yeah.
The Creative Co-op that my new acquaintance Brian Keith Wilson runs is one that comes to mind. I think that there is sure room. I don't know of a professional Latinx theater. Where's
Yeah.
that? Or maybe, I don't know. I know that's a broad term.
Mhm.
I don't. Yeah, I think Houston actually lacks all that. I think that all that could flourish here.
Yeah. I'd really like to see a true conservatory built here for training. Something that looks like Juilliard, looks like Stella Adler Conservatory, Neighborhood Playhouse, Bill Esper Studios, Circle in the Square.
You mean
Some-
something that stands alone and doesn't like?
Yeah, that's
not-
outside of a
not
university
outside of a
program.
that is
Yeah,
its
that's a
own-
conservatory that you don't have to take classes in history and math, and you can go, hey, I'm just going to go be submerged 8 hours a day in voice movement, scene study, be trained by some of the best people in the nation who come down here and teach 8 hours a day, and they teach a particular aesthetic of acting, and they dedicate themselves to one or two aesthetics through an entire program for 2 to 4 years, depending on what you do. If you want to do 4 years and maybe have a bachelor program, and it has to have some English or a few courses to be recognized, but a true conservatory program, I think would be exciting. I think it would add a cachet to the city. It's not saying anything derogatory about universities that are in the town. I think we have some great theater programs in the universities. I just think it does something to the perspective of theater in a city when there's a conservatory in terms of patrons and in terms of just the city. It goes, oh, we have a theatrical conservatory. We have this. It just does something to the balance. It also offers other classes outside of school. I keep saying I was going to do one, but I don't have time.
Oh yeah, we're just gonna do it.
I'm like, I can't add that, but I do teach,
here's
so
a
I do try to
conservatory.
teach. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Here.
What is that? What is
I'm
that?
trying to give him a conservatory. It's hard.
No,
It's
it is a lot of
hard.
work, but it would be a cool thing to have here. It would be really nice. A scene night. I've done a scene night. I used to have a poster on the wall. I did it with my school.
Well, what are you talking about? Are you reacting to something?
Sharon Dunaway wants a night of great scenes, an anatomy of a scene kind of situation. And I did that with my master class when I had a bunch of students who stayed in my class for years, and they had been there for a long time, and we did a couple of productions of scenes, and that was fun. And I wouldn't mind doing that again. That's something that might be interesting to do with the theater. So I'll put
It's kinda
that.
like,
I'll remember that.
The New York Times does this thing every once in a while where they have a film director, usually a director, sort of comment on a scene. I think they might even call it anatomy of a scene. You can't really do that with theater, can you? You have it. It's like you can't like comment while it's going on.
I know. I
We
guess
could try
not.
it. We do these nights at our theater where we invite audiences to a rehearsal, and then they can
Yeah.
see us working on a scene or usually a scene, and sort of see the director change something, and that is sort of similar.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a good question. I mean, we go to another 10
Says
minutes or
you.
so and see if anybody else wants to check in. What is there a particular production, Philip Lale, that you were very proud of at our theater in particular?
No.
All right, moving on. Well, maybe somebody out there, something. If any of you have a particular show from Fourth Wall you
I
like,
kind of love
feel
them all.
free to list
I kind
it.
of love them all. I fall in love with them all, and some are better than others. But what was like? What do you think? Well, like how? Let's put it this way: like, what was the most fun play for you to do? Don't say Virginia Woolf because
No.
it wasn't fun. It was hard work.
It was kind of fun, but the funnest play for me to do was God of Carnage.
Why?
Because it was just, I loved the people in it. First of all, I just loved them. My dear friend Kay Allman, who I miss and love, she was in it, and she was just, she's just such a beautiful actress and such a fun person. And John, John Grimion was in it. He was amazing. And then my dear love Drake Simpson, who I adore, got to play my husband. And to just fight with Drake Simpson all night long is the funnest thing. But the play itself is just this unraveling of chaos. And so it's just a blast. It was just a blast to do. And what play is not fun where
I'm just saying.
yeah, right. Philip in a dress. That's pretty good. But yeah, it was my funnest to do. The funnest one, or the hardest and funnest one for me to direct, was Pride and Prejudice. That was a blast, and I could have watched that every single night. How about for you? What was your funnest one?
It's weird because I loved in Pride and Prejudice when we weren't kind of playing a role, we would sit and sort of become the fourth part of the audience. It almost made it like it was in the round, and I loved watching that last 20 minutes. I was in it a little bit, but I mostly watched, and it was so beautifully lit, and it was so beautiful to look at, and it was it felt like I was part of the audience, and that was fun for me.
Yeah, that was just a really fun show. I really liked watching that show. But for you to be in, which one was your funnest to be in? What do you think was your funnest performance? Most funnest? Your most
The most
funnest, bestest, timest ever.
Fun Nation.
The funniest fun time ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I think those nights. Maybe I have to take it back because those nights when Virginia Woolf hit
Oh,
and it's a funnier play than most people think. And it when the audience came along and in the first two acts, the laughter was happening and it felt like you were climbing a mountain, but someone was kind of like helping you, or you were on a ski lift or something. Um, yeah, I'm gonna see. I wouldn't let you say
I
that, but
know. Well, you wouldn't. That's my favorite, but I found it. Now you stole
but
it.
come on, don't
Still
lie.
like
Like
you.
when you'd come in and start that play, it would be like, I can't believe I have to do this again.
I know, right?
And
But
you're like, can we
that's
just
not
do?
true. I used
Because
to sit
last
in the
night,
back and stand back there and laugh and do this stuff like, woo, woo, and you would be like, be quiet, be quiet. I'd be like,
Ro-
shut up.
Roger Daly, who's an old friend who I knew at the symphony, he goes Titanic. I was in the I was in the national tour of the musical Titanic, and it was not fun. It was hard work.
Eric Bradley's here. Hi, Eric. Mwah! He says, Wanderson says small mouth sounds and he
fun.
has to go with, for fun, and he has to go with pride. The small mouth sounds was pretty fun. And what was so fun about that was no lines. Wow, that was fun.
Very few lines.
Yeah, I was just thinking we should revive that. No lines. So
Yeah,
anyway,
but there's
but it was a
kissing.
great.
There's kissing.
Whatever. We'll go in quarantine. They can quarantine and not kiss anybody else. Um, oh my
Who's gonna
God,
do the
Almost
Who's gonna do the
Maine.
first production? Almost Maine. Oh
Brian
my.
Broom goes back to Almost Maine.
That was fun.
That was a fun show. That's a really lovely little heartwarming.
Who's gonna be the first theater
Show.
that does a play where there's like a COVID sex scene, where people are like apart but having sex?
Oh, don't say that. That's sad.
I know you think it can't be done,
That's
but
sad.
I know it can.
No. So, okay. So does anybody have questions for us? If so, type them right now. Go. Oh.
Yeah, when we get to me saying
Yeah, that's what
6 feet 6,
we're not talking about that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
probably time to wrap up.
Yeah, we're probably getting close. But let me tell you, who do we have next week? Next week is the first, right? Is that Leslie? Leslie Swackhammer next week, you guys. How many of you know the lovely and talented and amazing Leslie Swackhammer?
The hammer.
Yes. Now I'll tell you, Leslie is the executive director of the Susan Smith Blackburn Prize, which I'm very interested to talk to her about some of that because that's one of my favorite things. And
Why?
one of
Tell people what it is and why.
well, it's a prize for women playwrights that was established by what's Susan's sister's name? Mimi Kilgore.
Mimi Kilgore.
Mimi Kilgore, and her son Alex Kilgore helps run it and organize it. And every year they take submissions from source theaters, which we are one of. We are a source theater for the Susan Smith Blackburn Prize, and so are many theaters in Houston. And you can submit one prize a year and one play a year for the prize from any playwright you run. And there's some particular rules about the play and how much production it could have had. And they have a committee of wonderful, talented, amazing people read these plays and decide on a winner. And that winner gets a $25,000 prize and a painting from
It's not a painting. It's Willem de Kooning, but
Right.
it's like a print, I
a
think.
print. It's a
Yeah.
print. So they get a lovely piece of art and some money. And it's a great way for sometimes an unknown playwright to get a nice little kick for their career, and sometimes a more established playwright who's not gotten a lot of recognition yet or having an opportunity to, get another push forward for a play that needs a push. That's a wonderful play that's not getting the recognition it deserves.
Yeah.
Um,
That committee changes every year, right?
yes,
it's
every
like-
year they pick a new committee.
It's like the Cannes Film Festival.
mhm.
Yeah.
And Leslie's also a wonderful and amazing director in her own right. She works at stages on a regular basis here in Houston. She also does a lot of opera around the country. She works all over. She's going to do a play at 80 Players if their season gets up and going, which hopefully at some point here soon it will be. We know she's done some things at the Alley. She's just all over the place. She's fantastic. So we get to talk to her about her career and her ideas about theater. So we'll see her next week.
Good deal.
And for those of you who've actually joined us live here, we are so grateful to have you. So thanks, everybody.
We apologize again for not being able to get Eileen on with us
Yeah.
live, and we apologize to her, and we'll figure it out. And but you know, these things are kind of just these they're pretty informal, wouldn't you say, honey?
Well, we yes, but we want them to be very informative. And
Informative but informal.
but the next thing, next week, if you join us, your backdrop will not be posters. They will be the mountains of Sedona.
We can't guarantee that.
We're
It's
gonna
probably
try.
be some drab hotel.
I
room.
hope not. I hope we have a patio because we're going to isolate somewhere so we can walk in mountains and kind of be alone.
Think we
And
can handle the sound and the
we're going to do it.
outside.
We're going to do it. Yes. All right. So that's it. We are so grateful that you guys joined us. And please tune in next week. And
Beyond the fourth wall.
and we'll see you then.
B4W.
Beyond the Fourth Wall is produced by Fourth Wall Theater Company, Houston's home for extraordinary performances up close. Each guest is paid for their appearance on this series, in accordance with our mission to pay artists a living wage. Follow the links in the video description to support Fourth Wall with a tax-deductible gift or to subscribe to our upcoming 10th anniversary season.